A director who doesn't go crazy is a director who isn't passionate enough about what they're making. Someone who is willing to go all out, take all the risks possible, whether that be over a disease, an injury, or even death. There are certain directors who go through a phase where they make a few great movies, their reputation reaches a high point, and although they've achieved this all with hardship and tribulations, they weren't driven to a point of madness. That is, until one day they decide to make a film that will test their limits to the maximum, and by the end of that film, they will be a far different person from the one that set out to make it. What defines insanity? Is it going on a massive tantrum by destroying everything on set and eating the worms from the ground? No. The descent into madness is a gradual process. Day by day, the mind eats away. It causes a director to do things they wouldn't normally. This insanity leads a director to go power crazy. Charlie Chaplin was an obsessive control freak on the set of City of Lights. He was doing all he could in his power to make sure he was doing everything, and when I say everything, I mean everything. He not only stars as the lead of City Lights, he wrote it, he directed it, he produced it, he edited the film, hell, he even composed the music. It's like that scene from Mr. Bean's Holiday when Willem Dafoe plays a pretentious filmmaker crediting himself in every role possible. But it's actually happened in reality. There is living proof that directors are insane and conceited without even realizing. Many would consider City Lights to be Chaplin's best work. But the people who worked on this wouldn't even care and would probably like to forget about their time on set. It took almost 2 years to shoot this movie, but a big reason for this is because his mother had passed away during pre-production, leaving him distraught, and perhaps the production of City of Lights was in some way a grieving process that resulted in him doing things that were over the top and pedantic. Before there was Kubrick, who was known for his numerous takes, there was Chaplin. He demanded over 300 takes for one scene that would take 2 weeks to film. Virginia Sherrill played the blind flower girl. She said, "I never liked Charlie and he never liked me." One scene required up to 380 extras. During the scene in which the tramp stops the millionaire from committing suicide, the actor Henry Clive did not want to jump into a tank of cold water in the scene. This of course angered Chaplin and he fired Clive, and was replaced by Harry Myers. During one scene, Sherrill asked Chaplin if she could leave early for a hair appointment. And keep in mind, by this point Sherrill was incredibly bored. She had been so patient waiting to film the scene that was held back 11 months prior. Chaplin was of course not happy with Sherrill's request and fired her, replacing her with Georgia Hale, his co-star in The Gold Rush. But Chaplin quickly realized too much film had been shot of Sherrill, so after considering other actresses out of hope, he rehired Sherrill. Chaplin was happy with Sherrill's performances from that point onwards. The making of Apocalypse Now, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, was one of the most notoriously chaotic productions in film history, filled with a near mythical level of challenges that became as legendary as the movie itself. It pushed Coppola to the brink of madness, and this madness is perfectly reflected in the movie, a hypnotic odyssey into the male psyche. After the success of The Godfather, which anchored Coppola as one of the greatest and most prolific filmmakers of the period, he had the luxury of pursuing a project that he felt passionate about. A project that was so ambitious, so epic, that luxury quickly became a burden. The movie was shot in the Philippines, which offered lush jungles but also relentless natural and logistical challenges. Torrential rains disrupted the schedule, leading to long delays. Typhoons destroyed sets multiple times, forcing costly and time-consuming rebuilds. Marlon Brando arrived overweight and unprepared, having not read the script or the source material. He improvised much of his dialogue, which irritated Coppola and forced him to rewrite and restructure scenes. Martin Sheen played the lead, Captain Willard, suffered a near-fatal heart attack during filming, likely exacerbated by the grueling schedule, stress, and his own personal issues, including heavy drinking. Dennis Hopper, playing a crazy photojournalist, was reportedly fueled by drugs, which contributed to an unpredictable atmosphere on set, making it difficult to stick to the script. The film went wildly over budget and schedule. Initially projected to take 6 weeks and cost $12 million, it ballooned into a 16-month shoot costing over $30 million. Coppola mortgaged his own home and put up his personal assets to keep the production afloat. His perfectionism and ambition pushed the film to extremes. He famously claimed, "This is not a movie about Vietnam. The movie is Vietnam." The script underwent constant rewrites, often mid-shoot. Coppola encouraged improvisation, leading to an erratic production where actors frequently performed without clear direction. The Philippine military provided helicopters for the film, but they were often recalled mid-shoot to fight insurgents, which created frequent delays and disrupted filming. Coppola himself faced severe stress and depression during production. He allegedly threatened to commit suicide at one point and likened the experience to going through a personal version of the Vietnam War. The film utilized real napalm and large-scale pyrotechnics, creating hazardous working conditions. The famous line, "I love the smell of napalm in the morning," is a stark reminder of the extreme measures Coppola took to portray the chaos of war. Despite, or perhaps because of, the madness, Apocalypse Now became a masterpiece, capturing the surreal horror and moral ambiguity of war. The behind-the-scenes documentary Hearts of Darkness, A Filmmaker's Apocalypse, chronicles this ordeal and is a riveting account of the film's creation. The chaos of Apocalypse Now reflected the themes of the movie itself, a descent into madness both on-screen and off. The filming of Fitzcarraldo, directed by Werner Herzog, is one of the most infamous tales of cinematic ambition and chaos, rivaling the production of Apocalypse Now in sheer madness. The film, about an opera-obsessed adventurer's quest to haul a 300-ton steamship over a mountain in the Peruvian jungle, mirrored its protagonist's improbable dream. As Herzog himself embarked on a nearly impossible mission, Herzog famously rejected the use of miniatures or special effects for the central set piece, moving a full-sized 300 steamship over a hill between two rivers. Determined to make the scene real, he insisted on actually dragging the ship over the mountain with the help of indigenous laborers and rudimentary technology. The physical and logistical challenges were staggering. The Peruvian jungle proved relentless, with extreme heat, humidity, torrential rains, and dangerous wildlife constantly threatening the cast and crew. Diseases such as malaria and dysentery plagued those working on set, including Herzog himself. The remoteness of the location made resupply efforts slow and unreliable, leading to shortages of food and medical supplies. The volatile actor who played the lead role of Fitzcarraldo, Klaus Kinski, clashed constantly with Herzog and the crew. Kinski's tantrums were so extreme that indigenous extras reportedly offered to kill him for Herzog. Herzog declined but later admitted he had contemplated it. The original lead, Jason Robards, contracted dysentery and had to leave the production after 40% of the movie had already been shot. The production was caught up in local conflicts. Indigenous groups, already wary of Herzog's project, threatened to halt the filming due to territorial disputes and concerns over how they were being treated. Negotiations and delays were constant, with Herzog often mediating between crew members, indigenous groups, and local authorities. The film went significantly over budget and schedule. Herzog personally invested a great deal of his resources, and at times it seemed like the movie would never be completed. The stress on Herzog and the crew was immense. Herzog later described the production as a fever dream and admitted that he himself nearly descended into madness. Despite the harrowing production, Fitzcarraldo became a critically acclaimed film, celebrated for its daring visuals, particularly the ship's impossible journey. Herzog's relentless pursuit of authenticity cemented his reputation as one of cinema's great mavericks. His commitment to realizing his vision, no matter the cost, turned Fitzcarraldo into both a cinematic triumph and a cautionary tale of artistic ambition unchecked. The filming of Heaven's Gate, directed by Michael Cimino, is widely regarded as one of the most chaotic and disastrous productions in Hollywood history. It epitomized the excesses of auteur-driven filmmaking during the late 1970s and early 1980s, leading to massive cost overruns, creative disputes, and ultimately the near collapse of its studio United Artists. Michael Cimino was making this movie after the incredible success of Deer Hunter. Perhaps the success got to him, and thus he had an obsessive attention to detail and perfectionism, which led to countless delays and reshoots. He insisted on historically accurate costumes and props, even though they wouldn't be visible on screen. Scenes were shot dozens of times for minor details. For example, Cimino reportedly had the crew wait for hours to capture the perfect light or dust density in the air. He expanded the movie from its original 2-hour runtime to over 5 hours at one point. Cimino's extravagant demands included building entire towns from scratch rather than using existing sets, and importing period-appropriate materials for set construction. The film's notorious ice skating sequence was emblematic of Cimino's successes. He had the ice rink built and rebuilt multiple times, delaying filming by weeks to achieve his vision. Cimino reportedly micromanaged every aspect of the production, down to the placement of the individual clouds, which he allegedly waited days to align perfectly for certain shots. The cast and crew was subject to grueling hours, endless retakes, and a lack of clear direction. Tensions on set were high, with actors frustrated by Cimino's inability to make decisions. Isabelle Huppert, cast as the female lead, faced particular criticism for her performance, which many believe Cimino failed to guide effectively. Many crew members reportedly quit or were fired due to Cimino's erratic and dictatorial behavior. The production drew significant backlash for alleged animal cruelty. Horses were reportedly injured or killed during battle sequences, a horse was allegedly blown up with dynamite. Though Cimino and the studio denied these claims, these accusations led to widespread protests and tarnished the film's reputation even before its release. When the studio finally screened Cimino's initial cut, it was over 5 hours long. The studio demanded cuts, which Cimino reluctantly made, bringing the runtime down to 3 hours and 39 minutes for its release. Heaven's Gate premiered to scathing reviews and financial ruin. It earned less than $4 million at the box office, failing to recover even a fraction of its cost. All of these directors used up all of their resources. They demanded much from their cast and crew to the point where it became unreasonable and selfish. But why do they do it? Have they given themselves a target so ridiculously high that it's virtually impossible to obtain? And when a director truly feels passionate about the story they're telling, it often leads to panic, stress, and depression. They do things they wouldn't normally. Start treating people as though they are less. Some will call them tortured artists, and others will call them mentally ill. But this is true in many cases of art. At some point in their career, it drives them to a place that there is no coming back from. The person they once were is no longer.